Imagine you step across the threshold of a door you haven't opened in 40 years. As your hand finds the cold, brass knob and gives it a turn, the air that hits you isn't from today. It's thick with the scent of wood grain paneling, old comic book paper, and the sharp metallic tang of a television warming up. You aren't just looking at a room. You're stepping into a time capsule that was sealed the moment you left for adulthood. This isn't about the furniture. It's about the soul of a space that lets you disappear before the world found a way to stay connected 24/7. Listen to the silence of the house. It's not the empty, hollow quiet of today, but a dense, living stillness. You can hear the rhythmic, mechanical tick-tock of a plastic alarm clock on the nightstand and the faint, distant vibration of a car passing by on the street outside. A sound that feels miles away because in this room, you are completely untethered. There is no blue light blinking from a charging dock, no phantom buzz of a notification. Here, time isn't something to be managed or optimized. It's something you simply breathe in, one analog second at a time. Look at the dust motes dancing in a single beam of afternoon light that cuts through the heavy curtains. In 1987, that light had nowhere else to be. There was a patience to the afternoon. You'd watch those golden specks drift for 20 minutes, lost in a daydream about the weekend or the person you hoped would call. Your attention wasn't being harvested by an algorithm. It was yours to waste. It was in these slow, stretching hours that you actually learned who you were, tucked away in a corner of the world that felt like it belonged only to you. Your walls are a crowded gallery of your own making. In 1986, a bedroom wall wasn't just a surface. It was a declaration of war against the boring adult world outside. You didn't have a digital feed. You had the poster wall. You'd spend an entire Saturday afternoon with a roll of masking tape and a level, ensuring that your favorite neon-drenched movie poster was perfectly centered. These weren't temporary images you scrolled past in a second. They were permanent fixtures of your life. They watched you grow. They saw your first heartbreak. And they held the secrets of your late-night thoughts. They gave the room a skin, a texture that made the four walls feel like a protective armor. At the heart of the room sits the media tower, a chaotic stack of plastic and magnetic tape that felt like a high-tech laboratory. To hear a song, you didn't just tap a screen. You had to engage in a physical ritual. You'd select a cassette, feel the weight of the plastic case, and hear the satisfying clack as it seated into the player. You'd watch the two tiny wheels spin behind the clear window, knowing that every note was a physical vibration passing through a wire. Because the music was a physical thing, it felt more real. You didn't skip, you listened. You didn't browse, you committed. There was a specific smell to the electronics back then, a mix of warm plastic and copper. When you'd press your ear against the speaker mesh, you could hear the faint, comforting hiss of the tape before the song actually started. It was the sound of anticipation. You knew every pop and crackle of your favorite album by heart. These imperfections weren't bugs. They were the fingerprints of your life. Your music wasn't a file floating in a cloud. It was a physical object you could hold, trade, and even repair with a piece of Scotch tape and a steady hand. The lighting in this sanctuary is a masterclass in atmosphere. It's a patchwork of low-tech glows. The soft amber light from the dial of a stereo receiver, the strange electric purple of a blacklight poster, or the steady warm beam of a clip-on lamp that smells faintly of burning dust. This wasn't lighting for productivity. It was lighting for dreaming. It turned the corners of the room into deep, safe shadows where your imagination could wander without being interrupted. It was a space designed for the unseen version of you, the one that only came out when the main light was clicked off. We have to remember the desk drawers. In the modern world, Our history is stored in the cloud, invisible and intangible. But in the 80s, your history was tucked into a wooden drawer. It was a treasure chest of the tactile, a ticket stub from a concert that changed your life, a Polaroid with colors that were already starting to fade, and the heavy smell of a fresh pack of felt tip markers. These weren't files, they were artifacts. If you touched them, they touched you back. Your room was a museum where you were the only visitor, and every object had a story that required no battery to tell. Modern bedrooms often feel like waiting rooms because we've traded our stuff for services. We've cleared the shelves to make room for minimalism, but in doing so, we've cleared out the friction that made life feel solid. In the 80s, you lived with boredom, and that boredom was a gift. Without a device to pull you away, you were forced to inhabit your own skin. You'd stare at the ceiling for an hour, tracing the patterns in the plaster until you solved a problem or invented a new dream. You weren't consuming, you were simply existing. Think about the windows. They were the only screens we had that looked at the outside world. You'd spend hours leaning on the sill, watching the neighborhood wind down. You'd see the streetlights flicker to life, casting a hazy orange glow over the asphalt, and you'd hear the distant call of a neighbor's dog. You were an observer of a real, physical neighborhood, not a digital one. There was a peace in knowing that as long as you were inside these four walls, the rest of the world couldn't demand a thing from you. You were safe, you were silent, and you were home. Life in this era happened on the floor. The carpet was the true social center of your private world. It's where you'd sprawl out to do homework while listening to the radio, or where you'd sit with your back against the bed, twisting a 10-foot phone cord around your finger as you whispered into the receiver. There was a groundedness to it. You were physically connected to the earth of your room. You could feel the grain of the carpet, the vibration of the bass from the speakers, and the cool air near the baseboards. You were a part of the room's architecture, and that connection made you feel like you truly belonged somewhere. The 1980s bedroom was the last true sanctuary of the private self. It was a place where you could be a work in progress without the whole world watching the edit. If the memory of wood grain and the sound of a spinning cassette feels more like home than any modern apartment, join us by hitting like and subscribing. We're keeping the memory of the tactile world alive. Leave a comment below. What was the one anchor in your 80s bedroom? The one thing that made it feel like yours and nobody else's? The digital world is vast, but it will never have the warmth of four walls that knew your name before you even knew yourself.